All right. Good morning. The time is 9 o'clock. I call to order the June 16th, 2022 meeting of the Contractors State License Board. My name is Susan Granzella, and I am CSLB's board chair. If we could all please stand, I invite Diana Love to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Put your right hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. I will now note for the record that Mary Tykert, Rodney Kobos, and David Delatorre have approved absences today. Mariah, please confirm board member attendance and roll call.
Susan Granzella. Here. Frank Alt.
Here.
Here. Alan Guy.
Here.
Diana Love. Here. Michael Mark.
Here.
Steve.
Here.
Jim Ruane.
Here.
Johnny Simpson.
Here.
Mary Tykert, excused absence.
Thank you, Mariah. Also joining us is CSLB staff Registrar David Fote, Chief of Licensing Fote Garagozlo. We were practicing earlier. Garagozlo. Chief of Enforcement Steve Grove, Chief of Legislation Mike Jamnetsky, and Executive Office Analyst Mariah Rivera. David is joining us virtually due to health and safety protocols. He is here. For board members to appear remotely, this off-site location must be publicly noticed 10 days from before the meeting. This requirement does not apply to staff such as David. Today from DCA, present is Legal Counsel Jason Hurtado, Ryan Marcourt, and Regulatory Counsel Danny Rogers, and they are in the audience. I want to take the opportunity to congratulate Michael Jamnetsky on his well-deserved promotion to Chief Deputy Registrar. Well done and welcome to the management staff. Thank you. So moving to agenda item B, which is for public comment and to request agenda items for future meetings. The board values public input as part of our consumer protection mission. To allow us enough time to conduct our full schedule of business today, I'm limiting public comments to 2 minutes apiece. If your comments don't involve an item on today's agenda, this would be a good time where you can make them. If you have comments on one of our agenda items, we encourage you to wait until we get to that item. We will give you an opportunity to make your comments at that time. We also ask that your public comment relate to the agenda item currently before the board. There are a few other rules that apply. First, California prohibits board members from discussing any matter brought up during public comment, and board members are not allowed to act on any item not on today's agenda. Second, if you want the board to discuss a topic not on the agenda, you can ask us to consider placing that issue on the agenda for a future meeting. Finally, if you have an application, complaint, or disciplinary charges pending before the board, we ask that you not discuss the details of your case or pending complaint. That's because the board members may be the judges and by law are not permitted to receive evidence or information that is not part of the administrative record in the case. So, do any board members have an item that they would like placed on a future agenda? All right, seeing none, I'm going to ask if there are any comments from the public, and that would be for items that could be placed, considered for a future agenda, or for items that are not on today's agenda. Any comments from the public?
Chair, before we move on, do you mind if I ask Mariah to establish that we have a quorum?
Yes.
And that is nine members?
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Oh, thank you. Alex Christian. Board Counsel Jason Hurtado recently informed CSLB of his appointment as legal counsel at the Department of Cannabis Control, and that today is his last CSLB board meeting. Jason, this board has benefited from your expert, wise, and conscientious representation of CSLB through a number of challenging issues over the past several years. I also know that board members and CSLB staff have particularly enjoyed working with you. We are sad to see you go, but we'd like to congratulate you on your new position. We have a certificate for you, and which I will now read. On behalf of the Contractors State License Board, members and staff, thank you for your outstanding work as board counsel. Your exemplary dedication, professionalism, and commitment have been an inspiration, and your diligent efforts have been greatly appreciated by the board. You will truly be missed by all who've had the privilege of working with you, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And next, we would like to present this certificate. Could you please come up? I know. So we do this. Congratulations. She's ready.
Again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome. Are there any board members who would like to comment as we acknowledge the efforts of Mr. Hurtado? Any comments from board members? Oh, it goes.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to say.
Okay.
Good morning again, and thank you, Jason, for your leadership and your work being at CSLB, and again, for everything that you have done in that role. And I wish you the best in going forward. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Jason, I do appreciate your straightforwardness in closed sessions. A lot of times when we're dealing with very complex topics, having that straightforward answer really helps speed things along, and I really appreciate that part about that. Sometimes it's best to just get straight to the business. Let's get this thing done, and you have always been very, very good at doing that. So thank you.
Go ahead.
It's Johnny. I would also like to thank you, echo Michael's remarks, man. It's been a pleasure to deal with you. You've always been straightforward, and you can tell us exactly what's on your mind. So thank you very much, and we appreciate everything you did for us. And congratulations and good luck.
Thank you, John.
Mr. Fote, I understand you have comments that you would like to share with us?
Yes, I do. Good morning. But I really appreciate the opportunity to say a few words regarding our friend Jason. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes at CSLB. On occasion, administrative law judge decisions are received and we're unable to adopt them. We don't agree with it. That requires Jason to draft a replacement decision. We have a lot of meetings with attorneys from other state agencies regarding jurisdictional questions, and Jason has routinely assisted us with the more complex licensing and enforcement issues. Jason excelled at providing sound legal advice and always in a professional manner. And I just really want to let everyone know, Jason, that we really appreciate all you did. We wish you well, and thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Next, we would like to recognize CSLB Personnel Manager Ingrid Witowski-Sedler. During the past 3 years of transition in the workplace to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, CSLB Personnel Manager Ingrid Witowski-Sedler has worked tirelessly to ensure CSLB follows personnel best practices and staff continue to have a safe and productive work environment. Ingrid was vital in planning and executing new ways of doing business in the new telework environment. Ingrid worked closely with CSLB's executive management team in executing new telework agreements and revamping CSLB employee expectations and guidelines for staff. Ingrid and her staff put in extra work. That's sort of a mild description of all the work you must have put in complying with new COVID-19 reporting requirements and health and safety issues related to COVID-19. Ingrid also managed to ensure that all recruitment, onboarding of new employees, career development, training, and all other personnel-related issues kept moving forward. For this, we recognize Ingrid Witowski-Sedler for all her hard work and dedication to CSLB. Please, why don't you come up, and I would like to So for a moment, I would like to, in recognition of your vital work in planning and executing new ways of doing business, that's a way of putting it, in the new telework environment and your tireless effort to ensure CSLB follows best practices and ensure staff continues to work in a safe and productive work environment. Thank you. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, I would like to recognize CSLB Business Services Manager Alex Christian. Also, during the last 3 years of transition in the workplace to respond to COVID-19 pandemic, CSLB Administrative Manager Alex Christian has worked tirelessly to ensure that CSLB staff have the resources they need to perform their jobs safely, and the CSLB offices remained accessible to the public. Alex and his staff worked diligently to provide CSLB staff with necessary personal protective equipment, PPE, office supplies, and equipment to do their jobs safely. Alex also ensures that CSLB headquarters and all CSLB's field offices are properly cleaned and sanitized as COVID-19 cases are reported. Under Alex's supervision, mailroom services, electronic document conversion services, and cashiering services were uninterrupted as CSLB transitioned to the telework environment. For this, we recognize Alex Christian for all his hard work and dedication to CSLB. Would you kindly come up? So I will read again on the certificate. In recognition of your outstanding work to control COVID-19 exposures and reduce the spread of the virus within the workplace by ensuring that CSLB staff have the equipment and resources they need to perform their jobs safely and keeping CSLB offices accessible to the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any board members who would like to comment at this time?
I'll start again.
Go ahead.
I want to thank both Ingrid and Alex for simply just keeping us all safe. Thank you.
And is there any public comment for this agenda item for the recognition? Any public comment on this? Seeing none. Next, we move on to agenda item D, the review and possible approval of March 30th, 2022 board meeting minutes, which begin on page 9. Do any board members have edits to the minutes at this time?
I do, Madam Chair. On page 11, at the very bottom, where it talks about under DOJ, it should read, "A quorum was established by Vice Chair Mary Taggart and not Secretary."
Oh. Duly noted. Are there any additional comments from the board? Any changes, edits? Seeing none. I will ask for a motion to approve the March 30th, 2022 board minutes.
So moved. As amended? Yeah. Second.
Goes off. No further comment? Is there any public comment? Seeing none. Mariah, please call roll.
Susan Granzella. Frank Altimer.
Aye.
Rodney Kobos. Approved absence. David De La Torre. Approved absence. Miguel Galarza. Alan Guy.
Aye.
Diana Love.
Aye.
Michael Mark. Steve Pinelli.
Aye.
Jim Ruane.
Aye.
Johnny Simpson.
Aye.
Mary Teichert. Approved absence. Motion passes.
Thank you. We are now moving on to D2A and B, which is the Registrar's report, which includes an update on the tentative board meeting schedule, as well as an update on the National Association of Contractors Licensing Agencies, or NASCLA. At this point, Registrar David Fote, I turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Chair Granzella. The next quarterly board meeting is scheduled in Johnny Simpson's hometown of San Diego. And the tentative date for that would be to start in the afternoon of Tuesday, August the 30th, and conclude in the morning of August 31st. This will be our annual joint meeting with the Nevada Board. I spoke with Margie Green. Margie's the executive officer for the Nevada Board. I spoke with Margie yesterday, and we talked about a few agenda items that I just wanted to share with all of you this morning. Agenda items include a discussion of new and emerging construction technologies, outreach opportunities, and successes that California and Nevada have had with enforcement strategies. But like for any board meeting, if you have any suggestions for topics, we would welcome them. We're going to have an opportunity to perhaps have a guest presenter or two at this meeting, because the board meeting in San Diego will coincide with the National Association of State Contractors Licensing Annual Conference. We refer to that as NASCLA. They're having their annual conference in San Diego the same week that we'll be having our board meeting. They're also going to have an investigator track that could be beneficial for our investigators. And I've talked to our enforcement chief, Steve Grove, about sending up to 15 investigators to that training. So we're excited about that. And agenda items include what we can do as regulatory bodies to protect consumers and also to raise industry performance by recruiting people into the construction industry. The idea being to help these folks consider a construction career and become competent professionals and future construction industry leaders. I was able to suggest two presenters. One is from the Alameda County DA's office to talk about some of our successful criminal investigation strategies. And also our Vice Chair, Mary Teichert. I mentioned that before. Mary will be talking about the success that we've had in encouraging women to consider a construction career, and also what we've done in some of the disadvantaged communities. So Mary will be a presenter on Thursday. That would be September 1st. And just to wrap this up, if there are any board members that are interested in attending the conference, please let me know. We can submit a conference form for you and pay the conference fee. So that would be my update on the board meeting and also the NASCA conference.
Thank you, Dave. Is there any comment from board members on the registrar's report? Is there any public comment at this time on the registrar's report? No. Seeing none. Thank you, David. We'll move on to the next item. That would be the budget update, which begins on page 57 of your board packet. I now invite Board Secretary Diana Love to introduce the budget update. Thank you, Diana and Stacy.
Good morning again, everyone. As board secretary, I serve as the board's budget liaison with staff in the monitoring and reporting of the budget to the board. The budget runs on a fiscal year calendar, which runs from July through June. Since the fiscal year is nearing an end, let me highlight the budget year-end projections. The CSLB authorized governor's budget is $75 million, plus an additional $5 million in mandatory external costs. At year-end, CSLB is projecting to spend $75 million in total expenditures and is projecting the final revenue at $80 million. This really highlights all of the hard work that has been done over the last 2 years in balancing the budget. The dedication and commitment by staff have really paid off. Job well done. Now let me turn it over to the budget manager, Stacy Paul, to provide a more detailed budget update. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Secretary Diana Levin. Good morning, everyone. The budget update begins on page 59. The first chart shows the fiscal year 21-22 final budget and expenses through March. Nothing too exciting. In fact, we are spending slightly lower than expected at 69% of our budget authority, keeping us on track to spend our authorized budget by year end. The chart directly below shows our revenue through April. Overall, it shows us exceeding the prior year revenue by 9%. This increase reflects the new fees that took effect in January, which, if we compare to the same time last year, for the months of January through April, we have collected an additional $77 million in revenue based on the new fees. If you flip the page to page 60, this is our fund condition. This projects out to budget year 22-23. The middle column is current year. You can see we began this fiscal year with 1.9 in the reserves. Our projected revenue for this year is $80 million, and directly below that is our projected board expenses and external cost at $75 million this year. Bringing in more revenue will increase our reserves by year end at $6.3 million in reserves. Then if you look at the last column, which is next year, you can see that we should end the year with over 2 months in reserve at $16 million. Over on the next page, the chart directly below is this CMEA fund condition. The board was successful in increasing the annual appropriation this year to $175,000. This increase allows the board to disperse more grants to qualified institutions based on the fund balance. As you can see, the fund is healthy to support grant disbursements for many years to come. Lastly, let me quickly touch on the statistical summary details on the next 3 pages. No big surprises. We can continue to see increases in all areas, especially in new applications and issuance of new licenses. Most importantly, our renewals have stayed steady, and as you can see, we're still seeing a 3% increase over 2 years ago in the renewals. This concludes the budget update, unless there's any questions.
Well, I have a comment. I was trying to backtrack. It was 2 years ago 2020 with one of our first meetings, and that was when the reserve was a very big concern for CSLB. And through the work of your department and board members as well, who've been secretary and staff, with all the effort to bring that, we now have a healthy reserve, which is fundamental for any business, especially our model. So thank you very much, Stacy, and everyone else who worked on that. Thank you. So are there any comments from board members at this time? Is there any public comment at this time? As there's no action required of the board, we move on to our next agenda item. Next is the administrative program update, which begins on page 65, and for that, we will invite CSLB Administrative Division Chief Mike Maliza to please update the board.
Thank you, Chair Granzella, and good morning, members of the board. I'll direct you to page 67 of your board packet. I'll begin the administration division update with our personnel unit activities. We'll start with transactions. During the third quarter of fiscal year 2021-2022, CSLB personnel staff completed 50 personnel transactions. This included the addition of 11 employees from other state agencies and 11 employees new to state service. Within CSLB, 9 employees were promoted, which is a great sign, and 14 transferred to different positions. In addition, 2 examination proctors, 1 retired annuitant were hired, and 2 employees accepted training and development assignments. It was a busy quarter. You can also see the total number of personnel transactions per quarter on the tables on page 67, compared to last year's as well. So on page 68, I will review CSLB's vacancies. So CSLB averaged 47 vacancies since the beginning of fiscal year 21-22. The personnel unit continuously works with CSLB hiring managers and DCA, Office of Human Resources, to identify and minimize any delays in our recruitment efforts. We had a lot of recruitment activity, and it brought that number down to this week to 41.5. So we're getting to that normal vacancy rate level. Also on page 68, you'll see updates and highlights, most notably in our career development efforts. The CSLB Career Development and Mentoring Program Steering Committee hosted its 3rd Career Development Live event on April 27th, 2022. These online events highlight each of the CSLB's divisions, the work they do, and the jobs available in those divisions. A panel of staff representing different units within the licensing and examination division spoke to an audience of CSLB employees about the different jobs they perform, the roles of the functions of the different units, the types of classifications utilized in the division, and potential career paths and training opportunities. I'll now take you to page 70 of your board packet to give you an update on our business services activities, starting with our building facilities. We'll start with our West Covina field office. That lease currently will expire November 20th, and staff is working to put all the forms and submit everything to renew that lease. Bakersfield, that lease expires in December of this year, and it's the same thing. Staff is working to get that taken care of. For our Norwalk enforcement office, the current lease expires on October 31st of 2023, and we're working to prepare for the renewal of that lease. As far as our testing office in Norwalk, we will terminate the lease there since we will no longer have testing as we transition to PSI. And lastly, in San Jose, we did plan on closing that location because of our transition to PSI for testing. However, in June for this month, we did keep it open so that we could make sure that we did not have any backlogs and smoothly transition to PSI. So we did keep it open for 1 more month. On the bottom of page 70 and continuing on page 71, you'll see contracts and procurements in process. Most notably, we continue to ensure we have an ample supply of PPE equipment. That includes masks, hand sanitizer, wipes, to keep our staff safe in the context of preventing COVID-19 exposure. So this concludes my administration division update. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any comments
Through the chair, I have a question. On page 68 on career development. My mic turned off. So on the career development portion,
Oh,
okay, so career development, when you spoke earlier on that, there was internal promotions of like 11. Was a lot of those internal promotions at that live event? And then a follow-up question. I'd like to attend one of those live events. I think it helped me understand a lot about CSLB as a whole. So,
the first one, those promotions happen throughout the quarter. The event is just more informational to assist our staff. But we would definitely love to have you at our next one. We typically have them every quarter. I think IT, I've talked to Jason Perez, but I think we're going to focus on the IT division next. Be happy to have you along. Chair Granzella was very helpful at this one. She did the opening remarks, and it was great for our staff to not only meet Chair Granzella, but also hear from her. So yes, I'll keep you apprised of what our next activities there. And we do these activities so that we can give our staff. Sometimes we work in silos. You might work in the licensing division, but might not know what's going on in administration division or enforcement or whatever, public affairs. So we give them an idea of what we do in a broad sense. Maybe they want to change a career path, but also where they're working right now. Give them opportunities of training, knowledge about the classifications, this and that. So it's just helpful, which in turns helps out with those promotions. So we see those yields in the 11 that I reported that people are promoting. Yeah.
thank you.
Do we have any other comments from the board? Is there any public comment? As there is no action required of the board, we will move on to the next agenda item. Next, please turn to page 73, thank you, Mike, of your board packet for the information technology update.
Thank you, Board Chair Granzella, and good morning, everyone. On page 75 begins the information technology update. CSLB IT is very excited about its current implementation of the software-defined wide area network, or SD-WAN. The SD-WAN enables CSLB to securely support our application growth, our network agility, and to also simplify our branch office implementations. Back in January, CSLB IT concluded its proof of concept at our Norwalk field office. And then in May, just recently, CSLB headquarters completed its first phase of the implementation of SD-WAN. We are awaiting the second phase, which is allowing an external vendor to come in and install a redundant network connection here at the site. This implementation has increased the bandwidth along with providing greater visibility to CSLB's network traffic. And I'm happy to report this Friday, tomorrow, Fresno field office will be implemented with this new network solution. The remaining field offices are awaiting the external vendor to complete its network circuit installation. And secondly, the IT division has been committed to complete the exam administration outsourcing project. And in a few weeks, there we go. We'll have completed the fourth and final phase of transferring trade exams over to our contracted vendor, PSI. This was a tremendous effort, not just for the IT division, but also to the licensing division and testing, and also DCA's Office of Professional Exam Services. This transition has been successful, and effective July 1st, we will now move this project into operational phase. This will conclude the information technology update. I am available if the board has any questions.
Do we have any board comments or questions? on IT? Seeing none, hearing none. Do we have any public comment? As there is no action required of the board, we will move on to the next agenda item. At our March 25th, 2022 board meeting, I appointed David Delatorre and Johnny Simpson to the nomination committee to recommend to the board a slate of officers for the offices of chair, vice chair, and secretary for the next fiscal year, which starts July 1st. I now turn over the floor to Johnny Simpson to announce the recommended slate of officers.
Here we go. Thank you, Susan. David Delatorre and I have enjoyed serving on the 2022 nomination committee. Thank you for the appointment. We recently met to consider the requests of our fellow board members for the 3 positions that will be open. Our recommendation is the following: Mary Tashard for chair, Diana Love for vice chair, and Michael Mark for secretary. With that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. We will now begin the nomination process. For each officer position, I will state the nominated candidate that the committee recommends. Then I will ask if there's a motion from the floor for any individuals the board members would like to nominate. We do not need a motion for the persons that have been recommended by David and Johnny, only if there is an alternative recommendation from one of the board members. All floor nominations will require a second. Candidates will then be given 2 minutes to make their statement or describe why they are qualified for the position. Then we will take a roll call vote for each nominee in alphabetical order. If there is only one nominee for the position, members can vote by yes, no, or abstain when asked to vote. If there are multiple candidates for a position, then board members will vote in alphabetical order by stating the candidate's name they support. The first nominee to receive the majority of the affirmative votes in favor of that person, that is, members voting yes, will win that officer position. I will now proceed to the nomination for the office of chair. The committee recommends nomination of Mary Tykert. Are there any other nominations for the office of chair from the floor? There being no other nominations, clear. I will now close the nominations, and I will read a statement. Mary is not available to make a statement, but is very pleased to accept this nomination. So are there any comments from the public? Mariah, please call roll. Oh, I'm.
Susan Granzella.
Aye.
Frank Altamira. Aye. Rodney Cobos, excused absence. David Delatorre, excused absence. Miguel Galarza.
Aye.
Alan Guy.
Aye.
Michael Mark.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Diana Love.
Aye.
Steve Pinelli.
Aye.
Jim Ruane.
Aye.
Johnny Simpson.
Aye.
Mary Tykert, approved absence. Motion passes.
Thank you. For such a chatty group, I'm not sure this one at a time is going to work. Oh, okay. Next is the nomination of vice chair. The committee recommends the nomination of Diana Love, sitting to my left here. Are there any other nominations for vice chair from the floor? There being no other nominations, I will now close the nominations. Diana, would you like to make a brief statement?
Good morning again, and I accept the nomination recommendation. And I just want to say a few words to a lot of you who are new, who who do not know who I am. I live in Palmdale. I was appointed by the governor to represent the statewide senior organization, and I am currently your secretary. I serve on the Public Affairs Committee, and I'm on the Enforcement Committee. And again, I come before you seeking the vice chair position. But I wanted you all to know that I am very pleased to have had that opportunity to be the secretary and to be a part of a historical chapter within CSLB, to have been, since 1929, we were the first all-woman board, and we made history. Myself, the chair, and Mary Tigert, and I'm thrilled and honored to have had that opportunity. And I also wanted you to know that when I talked about being the secretary early on, I wanted to do more than just be someone who read minutes and looked over paperwork. I wanted to be an intricate part of that. So I was very pleased to work with staff and to work with the budget manager, Stacy, who did a fantastic job in educating me and just being there when I needed her and always making that appropriate phone call back to me whenever I called. So thank you, Stacy, for that. And it was my pleasure to be a part of the strategic plan in implementing and adding to it. I found that to be an extraordinary opportunity for us to grow and make change. So with that being said, thank you all for your attentiveness, for your words of wisdom, and just for being there whenever I needed you. And I appreciate your time and your opportunity to be your vice chair and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Well said. Are there any comments from the public at this time? Mariah, please call the roll.
Susan Granzella.
Aye.
Frank Altamira.
Aye.
Rodney Cobos, excused absence. David De La Torre, excused absence. Miguel Galarza.
Aye.
Alan Guy.
Aye.
Diana Love. Michael Mark.
Aye.
Steve Pinelli.
Aye.
Jim Ruane.
Aye.
Johnny Simpson.
Aye.
Mary Tykert, excused absence. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mariah. The last nomination is Board Secretary. The committee recommends that Michael Mark be considered. Are there any comments or nominations, any further nominations from the floor? Seeing none and hearing none. There being no other nominations, I will now close the nominations. Michael, would you like to make a brief statement?
Sure. Michael Mark here. I appreciate all of the board and your support in this endeavor. Stacy, I look forward to working with you. I know we have 2 months slated for reserves, but let's try to go for 6 months. So thank you.
It's good to be ambitious. So let's see. Are there any comments from the public? Mariah, please call the roll.
Susan Granzella.
Aye.
Frank Altamira.
Aye.
Rodney Cobos, approved absence. David De La Torre, approved absence. Miguel Galarza.
Aye.
Alan Guy.
Aye.
Diana Love.
Aye.
Michael Mark.
Aye.
Steve Pinelli.
Aye.
Jim Ruane.
Aye.
Johnny Simpson.
Aye.
Mary Tykert, approved absence. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mariah. Congratulations to our new officers. It was historic. It wasn't until after a year ago when we were elected that we realized 3 women were the officers of CSLB. And it was like, how? Oh, okay, that's great. But it's been a successful year, and participation by everyone, and certainly a learning experience for all of us. So the newly elected chair, vice chair, and secretary will assume the duties of their respective offices on July 1st. Moving on to committee updates. One of my favorite topics, licensing. Leading us through the licensing and testing portion will be Miguel Galarza. Miguel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Susan. You'll find the licensing update starting on page 83 of your booklet. I will highlight a few items for the board. Regarding applications, on packet page 84, indicates that the processing time for all applications remains at around 3 to 4 weeks. The goal has always been to drop that processing down to 3 weeks and to maintain it at that level, and to accommodate the staffing turnovers on the application units, working to recruit 2 of the retirees to help with the additional workload. So welcome back to retirees. I would like to also note the high number of pending applications on page 85. The higher number of pending applications for fiscal year 2020, 2021 is a result of the testing administration backlog and occurred due to COVID-19 pandemic closure of the CSLB examination centers between March of 2020 and June of 2020, and December of 2020 and February of 2021. Staff has substantially reduced the backlog as of 2022, which will be eliminated with the transfer of the testing administration to PSI starting next month in July of 2022. If you refer to page 86, note the chart there, the number of upcoming renewals continues to be steady. And we're pleased to inform you that the renewal process times are currently at 1 week. And the shortened processing time is a combination of unit being fully staffed and licensing taking advantage of online services that, quite frankly, I just did a couple weeks ago. So very efficient. Finally, please note that call wait times on page 92 for CSLB Licensing Information Center, or the call center, has been reduced and has filled vacancies, including a supervisory position, which helps with the workload monitoring. In addition, telework schedules have been monitored and modified for more consistent coverage. As a result of these changes, CSLB has significantly reduced the wait times at the call centers and currently more aligned with 2017-2018 statistics. You will find, if you turn to your booklet on page 96 and 97, CSLB has completed the 3rd phase of the transition to the PSI exams, with the final phase scheduled for July 1st. As of June 9th, 2022, there are 619 applications scheduled for their exam through PSI. Our pending exam count, which refers to exams that are waiting to be scheduled, is now below 4,000. The goal has been to be under 4,500, and that will be at the lowest in many years. To accommodate for more testing and to help get the numbers down to 4,000, CSLB reopened the San Jose Testing Center for the month of June, which allowed for scheduling an additional 631 exams. Special recognition is due to the testing staff for the work in transitioning CSLB examination administration to PSI exams and providing coverage for the San Jose Testing Center. As of today, the examination for 34 CSLB licensed trades and 1 law and business exam have been transferred to PSI exams. Finally, the exam development unit has held numerous workshops and continues the occupational analysis work for updating the remaining exams. Fawad, would you please provide an update for the testing efforts?
Thank you, Miguel. Good morning, members of the board. As of July 1st, 2022 per the Senate Bill 607, we will be expediting applications of spouses of military personnel on active duty stationed in California. All licensing fees will be waived, and applications will be elevated to a staff services analyst in the experience verification unit for immediate review and processing.
Thank you, Fawad. That concludes the testing update. And of course, Fawad will be available for the board if they have any further questions. Do board members have any comments regarding my report on licensing?
Miguel, I have a question. On page 92, where we talk about the longest wait time, could you explain to me what that is? Does that mean that the phone is ringing for 31 minutes perhaps, or is it answered and the person is put on hold that long? How does that long work time work?
I'm going to pass the baton over to Fawad as he's got a greater bandwidth on this issue.
Okay.
The wait time starts from the time that actually dial the 1-800 number.
Okay.
And so it takes about 2 minutes or so to go through the process of, selecting where the call should be directed.
Okay.
And then from there, it waits until it's assigned to a technician.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one more additional question. When we talk about PSI, which is on page 96, the PSI exam test centers, is PSI an acronym?
No, it's actually,
it
doesn't really stand for it. It's PSI exams.
Okay.
That's the name of the business.
Okay, thank you.
Again, thank you, Fawad.
Actually, I have a question.
Oh,
So we have watched as we still do the examination development in-house with all of our contractors, and we develop those, and those are passed over to PSI. What we don't do now is the administration, the setting up, all of the other things for testing. And we've handed that over to PSI. So I was wondering, have you a mechanism to collect comments or feedback from the people who have taken the test since they've been in effect since April 1st? Has anyone commented? Do you have a plan to report back to us, we hope, on what the acceptance level, how is it going on the PSI administration?
Yes, Madam Chair. We will send a survey after they get the license. We will send a survey. And then recently, what we have seen from the comments that they are pleased with having, because now there is 20 test centers. PSI has 20 test centers, and then more space. So they are pleased to be able to take their exam in much faster and move on. Yes.
Very good, thank you. So we'll look forward to the feedback at the next meeting. Thank you.
Through the chair, I have a question too before we move on. This is more in depth on to page 90 and 91, kind of on the experience verification portion. When we're speaking about it, it's 3% minimum need to be verified on original applications, right? So I see your head shaking. So my question is this: on the page 91 on the table, for the individuals that are showing that they withdrawn their application, are they kind of doing that voluntarily because they know that they do not meet the experience? In your understanding?
You mean the withdrawal?
Yes.
Correct. That is correct. Once we request the documentation for them to prove their experience, sometimes they withdraw the application. Maybe they don't have the document at that time, they're going to reapply at a later time.
So that's disheartening, because then of the denials, you have 46 of the 3%. So basically 100 out of 200 applications total that are actually trying to be going verified are actually showing that they have the experience there. And that's only of the 3% that we're looking at. So 97% that are out there, half of them could not have the proper experience to apply for a license. And I don't know, it's just something, a thought where if we can, I don't know if it'll take legislation, but ways to increase that 3% minimum, because, you know, some fellow board members here who are inspectors, they understand us as a consumer agency, it's kind of disheartening when it could be potential, a lot of people not have the experience in the classification that they are applying for. Does that make sense?
I think Dave has a comment.
David?
Yeah, if I could comment on that, just to give you some history on that 3%. The licensing division, I believe, does a tremendous job in reviewing all applications, at least, you know, to make sure that they have the experience that is claimed. Now, the 3% was set up by the board a number of years ago to provide for field investigation. And so what's happening with those apps now is they're being sent back out to, they're now going to be handled by the enforcement offices. They relate to people that are putting down where they have experience, and they can't always show all of the records we'd like to see. But with that 3% poll, we're able to bring those applicants in, talk to them, find out what experience they have. Perhaps we can qualify them, but if we can't, we can provide them information on how they could obtain the necessary experience. I just don't want anyone to think that FOD's group isn't reviewing all apps for the experience, because they are. But they're not like looking at tax records, permit records, going into a real in-depth investigation for most of them, because quite frankly, they really don't have to, because a lot of these applicants, they might have been in an apprenticeship program. They may have worked for a licensed contractor for a number of years that verifies, yeah, this was my foreman. He or she worked for me for the last 7 years. You know, with that kind of testimony, along with some verification, we're able to approve it. I don't know, Fawn, if you want to add anything to that, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands the distinction between the 3% and what is done every day with applications.